Hey guys, welcome back to a new week of daily recaps. Today we'll be going over Monday, August 12th's trading session. As always, let's hop into the daily chart for crude oil. We did take a trade in crude oil today. We'll see that a little bit later on when we hop into the intraday chart. As you can see here, we broke back above this wedge that we had drawn in. So we are no longer broken out, possibly heading in for more consolidation. As you'll see when we hop into the 5-minute chart, it was a very choppy day. There are actually opportunities for both sides, long and short. I took a short today, but we'll get into that a little bit later. As you can see now, we are currently above the 10-day EMA. Okay, so next target is the 21. Not too far away, but it's just to have in the back of your mind that we are most likely going to tap that now. We'll see if we reject it, maybe head back down lower. Who knows? It's very choppy right now. If we get back into this wedge, which we are at the moment, we're going to see more sideways action. So didn't like the price action too much today. We'll see the trade that I took and why I took it, but as of right now, not too happy with what's going on here. Let's look at the E-mini S&P daily chart before we break down lower. So I did not take a trade in this today, but there was very good price action if you were patient enough to have capitalized on it. Hit our levels perfectly. I will show you that when we break down on this pair as well. But as you can see now, we're below the support and resistance flip zone here. So further downside is expected. We bounced off the 200, retraced back up to the 10-day like I said that we would. Remember, it's like an elastic band this 10-day. Now we're starting to break down lower. We may see a little bit of a retrace overnight here back into this support and resistance zone, and then another leg down. My bias is leaning towards shorts at the moment, but we'll see where we open up tomorrow. Like I said, pretty good price action. It was a little choppy, just like crude oil, but it played off levels very nicely, which I'll show you in a bit. But let's hop into the crude oil chart first so we can see the trade that we took. All right, guys, so, all right, as you can see here, this is the trade that I took. This is today's trading session. And as you guys know, on Mondays, what I always like to do is two things. Look at the previous week's volume profile, which is this volume profile here, all of this, and Fridays as well. So what I always like to do is look at where we open in relation to those two. So we opened here at 54.70, which is a little bit above the value area high of Friday, and it's also below the POC of last week, okay? Now this is important because the past couple of weeks that we've been doing these recaps, we've never opened so close to a POC before. So I want to show you guys how we react to it when we do open close to it. Like I said, we haven't gotten the chance to see that. We've actually been pretty trendy in terms of the weekly charts. So now that we're close to the POC, I definitely want you guys to see how we react to it. But okay, so I'll walk you through why I took this trade and why I didn't take other opportunities, because there were other opportunities. As you see, we opened here, broke down slightly into the value area of last Friday, okay? As you can see here on this chart, on this candle, I mean. So we break down into it, go sideways for a bit, break above, okay? So this could be a possible entry. Immediately after this big green candle, you could have entered here, and you would have hit your 2-to-1 risk reward if you put your stop just under this candle. The reason why I didn't hop in on this trade is because, as I was saying before, we're very close to the POC of last week, as you see here. Okay, weekly POCs are a pretty significant line for support and resistance. Okay, so always keep that in mind. If this was a little bit further, I might have taken, or I probably would have gotten in on a long position here. But the fact that we were so close to it, I wanted to see how we reacted to it. So when we first broke up, we actually broke it, okay? And then we just consolidated for a bit, went sideways, immediately rejected back off of it. So we went down lower, we bounced a little bit off Friday's value area high, as you can see here. Had a little bit of a bounce up, and then we broke down lower, okay? So on this candle right here at 10:30 a.m., this was my signal that I'm looking for shorts now. And if you guys have noticed the past week or two, I've been wanting to see pullbacks to the value area highs. We've been in a very choppy market, and I want to see pullbacks a little bit before we head down lower. if you look at all the trades that we've taken, they've all been on pullbacks lately, okay? This isn't always the case, but as I've said before, as day traders, we have to be aware of the environment that we're in. And we're in a very, very volatile and choppy market at the moment, okay? So in markets like these, I like to wait for little pullbacks for confirmation, and then I'll head down lower. So today I had a sell right here at the value area high. So we entered on this candle at 11 a.m. Right when it got triggered, we started heading higher, okay? And I'm not gonna lie, I got a little bit nervous. I had my stop right above this swing high here. It didn't get hit, but it got pretty close. I also did not like to see that we closed above it here at 11:05. We did close above it with a 5-minute candle, but right after that, we head down lower. This is just a fake out, almost hit my stop, like I said, at a 20-tick stop, but then we ultimately headed down lower. Now, normally, I would have liked to reach the value area low here. That's usually where I would have my take profit, but like I said, we're very volatile market, very choppy markets. I wanted to get in and out. So I took my minimum 2-to-1 risk reward, which was 41 ticks, again with a 20-tick stop. It got hit, and it headed a little bit lower until it broke back up. Okay, so it didn't even hit that value area low. Ideally, I would have liked to see it hit it, even close below it, and then break down below this line here is that daily chart wedge. Let's go back to that. Here it is right here. As you can see, this is Monday's candle. It did break down below it, but let's go back to that. Oh, let's go back to crude oil. Okay. So I would have liked to see it break down below the value area low, have price accept below it, meaning not break back into the range, and then close lower. But of course, we didn't see that. What did we see instead? Right after our take profit hit, we started heading higher. We bounced a little bit, rejected a little bit on the value area high here, and then we broke back above it, and then we just consolidated sideways action between Friday's value area high, this red line, and last week's POC. Sideways action. Even heading into overnight, look at here. We're stuck in this range between Friday's value area high and last week's POC. So we're in this range right here, very tight. We'll see where we open up. Maybe we'll get some more movement getting closer to the open. But as of right now, there's either two scenarios. Either we break above this last week's POC and then head higher, break above last week's volume profile high. So that could be a target right there. If we accept above the POC, let's hope that we also break above last week's value area high, which is here. Okay, and then from there, we can head higher. If not, I would like to see us break and hold below Friday's value area low. Okay, now also keep in mind, let's draw in today's volume profile. I haven't looked at this yet. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, okay, so a very tight range. Like I said, either a close below here, then very short-term target, hit this value area low, or I'm not too interested in this value area high in terms of support and resistance. I'm more interested in looking at last week's POC. Okay, so don't think that you're immediately going long just on a break of this value area high. I mean, they are very close to each other, but I'm more interested in this, last week's POC, okay? So, but contrary, on the downside, I would like a hold below this, and then very short term, this will be our target, and then maybe head down lower. But as of right now, it is looking like we may head higher. I'm not too sure. We're still in this blue support and resistance flip zone, this area right here. So we could expect more sideways action. Hopefully we break out of it soon. But we'll see what it's looking like closer to tomorrow's open. All right, so that's crude oil. Now let's go into the E-mini S&P. Okay, so I have this drawn out, but remember, I did not take a trade. So this was not a trade that I took. I have this purely for illustrative purposes because I want to tell you about what I saw today and what I was expecting, okay? So if you remember last week, we filled in the gap on the SPX chart, okay? So it was right around this level here. Overnight, headed sideways, and we started breaking down, okay? So this is Friday's volume profile. We broke below the value area low here. We broke overnight, and then heading into the day session, we didn't even retrace back to it. What did we do? Look at last week's volume profile, okay? So what I have here, this red line, is last week's value area high. So where did we open in relation to it? We opened below it. We immediately tested up on it on the opening candle, headed lower. Then we went back up, tested it again, rejected off it, okay? So at this point in time, I'm seeing that it does not want to head higher, okay? It keeps rejecting. It rejected twice off the value area high. Once here, broke above it here, but then immediately rejected down, okay? If we were looking for longs, I would have liked to at least broken into Friday's value area low, which is at the 29.13 level, okay? If we would have at least went up to it, closed above it, then we could have targeted Friday's value area high, which is at 29.31. Instead, like I said, we rejected off last week's volume area high. So what was I expecting at this point? I was not so much looking towards this point of control just because it is very far away. That would have been a massive, range day. What I was looking for was the next closest volume profile, okay? And let me see how I can explain that. Since we didn't have any plays to look at with Friday's volume profile, meaning we weren't close enough in relation to it, we didn't go back up to that volume area, the value area low, and this is Thursday's. I can draw it out for you, but essentially it's the same as Friday's. Here, I'll show you. Oh, did that not click? Okay, so again, this is Thursday. So as you can see, the value area is essentially right here. It's the same as Friday's, okay? So we can't really use that. It's not really close to where we opened, if you know what I mean, or where price is currently trading, okay? I'm not interested in this price action here because, again, this is overnight. I'm more interested in last week's volume profile as well as last week's RTH sessions. So this is Wednesday's volume profile, okay? Again, so look at where we are here. We rejected off this. What would my next target be? Again, look at the closest volume profile in relation to where you are trading. So it wouldn't be here because remember, we didn't even reach this value area low and we're showing rejection, okay? We're showing that we want to go lower. So where do we go? Look to the left. The next closest value area is last Wednesday's trading session, okay? Last Wednesday's RTH. I looked at the value area high and I set that as my target. So let's look, so that's what this line is right here. So let's look at what happened. Again, we rejected off last week's volume area high, started heading lower. We retraced a bit, but then we immediately went back down and hit. We hit last Wednesday's value area high. So that's what I was looking for. Once we hit it, we rejected off of it and we started heading sideways into the close. And we're still heading sideways in the overnight as well. It's about 10:30 p.m. here. So I wanted to point that out to you guys. Always look at where price is currently trading, especially on a Monday. Look back into last week. Look at the next closest value area to base your levels off. Okay, so again, I'll walk through that again. We're currently trading here at this point, okay? In relation to last week's volume profile, we're at the value area high. We rejected off of it. We're showing that we want to head lower. So we look to the left. Where's the next value area that we can target? Not here, because the value area is up here. Not here, because this is the overnight session. We're not interested in that. We look here at Wednesday's volume profile. We look at the value area high, and that was our target, and we hit it perfectly. Again, I didn't take this trade just because I was more focused on crude, and I didn't really like the way it was so choppy. I mean, even look at it here. It just took both sides out. Okay, so started heading lower, took out all the stops that were above here, headed down, took out all the stops here, went back up. You know, it was choppy, but if you have the patience to hold, we hit our targets, okay? This is what I was expecting the entire day, and it played out perfectly. You know, it, again, goes to show you volume profile trading works. These are great levels to base it off, but again, it's crucial that you have a bias as well. We're showing we don't want to head higher. We're in last week's value area. Also, that's not too great. Again, we might have sideways action if we're in last week's value area, but besides the point, we rejected off value area high, and we head lower to the next closest value area to base a trade off of, okay? So what can we expect next? We're showing we want to head lower, okay? If price continues to consolidate and head sideways, similar to what crude oil is doing, ideally, our bias is towards the short side, right? We want to head lower. We're showing we don't want to head higher here. So where's our next target? Well, there's two things that you have to think of, okay? One is last week's POC, and also Wednesday's value area low. Again, that's what we based the trade off here. We did reject off of it, okay? So we need to see a strong break below it before we can target here, or short term, the POC. But again, we have to see where we're opening. There's not much movement right now, so we're going to have to see what it is closer to tomorrow's open. Let's draw on today's volume profile. So we can also use this for tomorrow in terms of levels to look at. Ooh, this was a very, yeah, look at today's value area. Not only is it pretty long in relation to the size, the range of the day, you know, it took up almost the entire day, but also there's two peaks here. There's a good low volume node here at the 2885 level, and then there's a high volume node here, the 2896 level, as well as the POC. So we'll see where we open in relation to this. As you can see, the value area low is pretty close to the value area high here of Wednesday. So if we can close below both of these, that's pretty strong bearish signal for us, okay? Then we can even target the value area low here. So we'll see. Normally I don't like to be in value area of the previous week just because it could mean that the entire week could be a consolidation, could see a lot of sideways action. Of course, the next closest thing is this value area high, which we could still break. It would be better to break it just because there's less resistance heading up, whereas on the downside, we're seeing a lot of, we have last week's POC, and of course, you know, like I just said, I don't want to be in value area. So that is where we are now, unfortunately. Let's go back to crude oil, actually. So we're also in value area of last week for crude oil as well. Looks like the path of least resistance is to head higher. We'll see. You know, after today, that could be a good trade, actually. If we do start, or we could even head down lower overnight. I don't want to break below this ascending wedge that we have drawn out on the daily chart. If we can stay above it and we can hold Friday's value area low, if we can hold both of those, then we can start looking for long signals, especially if we close above last week's POC, because we saw strong rejection here. So yeah, guys, those are what we're looking for tomorrow. Be sure to check in closer to the open just to see where we are in relation to today's volume profile. And I'll see you guys back here tomorrow night to go over tomorrow's trading session. Have a good night, guys.